Hello, Porter County. Welcome to yet another edition of the PoCo Wellness Hour, right here on WVLP 103.1 FM, your voice for local community radio and your show for health, community connection, and overall well-being. I'm Demetrius Lewis, Communication Specialist for the Porter County Health Department. Now, here on the PoCo Wellness Hour, we like to shine a spotlight on the incredible health initiatives that are shaping our community and the powerful partnerships that make it all possible. From local organizations working to improve public health to the innovative programs led by the Porter County Health Department. This is your show to stay informed, inspired, and engaged on your wellness journey. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's conversation about building a healthier Porter County together. Now, today we have a very special guest in studio, and it wasn't that long ago where every other program that we saw, whether it was on cable or streaming services, it was all about the apocalypse. It was all about the end of the world, whether it was Resident Evil or This Is Us. That actually started off as a game and they made it into a series. Nonetheless, if any of these fictional stories were to ever become real, I'm sitting in studio with a guy that you would want in your group, on your tribe. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Jeff Dees, Emergency Preparedness Coordinator with the Porter County Health Department. Jeff, how you doing, good sir?
I'm good. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, good sir. Let's start with the basics, good sir. Just introduce yourself. Maybe tell the people where you're originally from and yeah.
Well, I'm originally grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago. Spent most of my time running around there. Little stint out in Arizona where I graduated high school.
Okay.
I'm currently married, almost 31 years. It'll be 31 years next month.
Congrats.
Two daughters and a grandson that all keep me very busy. And then I've actually lived in Indiana for the last 20 years.
Okay. So you're a Hoosier now.
I am a Hoosier, yes.
Well, let's take it back a little further, Jeff. Let's take it back to when you were younger. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I guess you hear a lot from every kid wants to be a fireman or a police officer. I was always into the sciences. Oddly enough, and I guess very, very specific, wanted to be a biological oceanographer. So, little odd from somebody growing up around the Midwest and so far from the ocean, but it was always something that intrigued me, and I still like to follow along with that.
Gotcha. When I was in elementary school, they came up with a nickname for me, Whale Boy. It was Whale Boy. Every time we went to the library, I had this obsession with whales. I still do, if you know anything about me. I love killer whales, dolphins, and they nicknamed me Whale Boy. So my teachers thought that I was either going to be a marine biologist on one of the East Coast or the West Coast, or I was going to go into broadcasting because I was always talking and presenting to people. So one of those came true. So I totally get where you're coming from, good sir. Let's talk a little bit about how long you've been at the Porter County Health Department, sir.
I've been at the Porter County Health Department for a year and a half now. Every day's an adventure, always learning something new. Great staff.
Oh yeah.
So it's a good time.
Okay. Well, was there a moment or experience in your life that sparked your interest in public health or emergency preparedness?
I would say, I guess, more along the lines of public service. It really wasn't something that was on my radar growing up as a kid, but I remember a specific incident in which I actually worked back in my teen years. Worked at a lawnmower shop.
Okay.
I was at the parts counter, and a gentleman came in. He happened to be a volunteer fireman. He invited me out to their training. I decided to go out to their training. They handed me an application and a set of bunker gear. And that was kind of my start into public service.
Okay.
It was kind of a whirlwind from there with firefighter training, EMT training, paramedic training. Next thing I know, that was my career. It got me started in public service.
So that's your professional background? That was your role before coming here to the Porter County Health Department?
Yep, before coming to Porter County, I was just over 30 years as a firefighter, some of those as a volunteer. others full-time, and then my last position, I was there for 26 years and retired there as a deputy chief. So been through all the ranks from firefighter, paramedic, lieutenant, getting all the way up to the deputy chief position.
Done a lot.
So it's been a long, great career actually.
So what do you enjoy most about your current role with the Porter County Health Department with emergency preparedness?
Everything's a little bit different. Every day's different. It's different from what I was doing. Even though in the fire service you're responding to emergencies on a daily basis, the health department's a little bit different. You have to take a step back and you look at those incidents on a larger scale. How do they affect the entire county? Where the population I served before might have been between about 20 or 30,000. Well, now we're looking at 170,000 population for the county.
Yes.
So taking that step back with looking at the perspective on public health and not just specifically at emergency response.
Gotcha.
So it's a challenge, but it's fun.
Absolutely. What's something that people might be surprised to learn about you?
Well, I've been told by a few folks that I'm kind of like an onion. I have a bunch of layers, and some things it just seems like a daily thing for me. Others find interesting. But one thing, I used to be a part owner in an archery business. I was actually a certified archery coach for a while. We worked with a lot of kids that would come through the archery shop, whether it was their PE program or just kids that were out for family outings with their family.
Okay. Do you still shoot? Or do you still practice? Or you still
on an occasion, I'll get out and target shoot once in a while, but not too much lately.
Okay. That's an awesome skill. I know nothing about archery. Let's move on to our next segment, if you don't mind, good sir. We want to get a better understanding of emergency preparedness for our listeners here on WVLP 103.1 FM. So what exactly does an emergency preparedness mean? What does that mean at the local level in the health departments?
That's actually a pretty broad question for how emergency preparedness works. Mm-hmm. So with the health department, we have so many different facets, and I wasn't aware of everything that the Porter County Health Department does until I started working there. It's not specifically just a nursing staff or public health in that aspect. We have environmental services. We have food services. There are so many different things that the health department encompasses. So trying to factor those all in on emergency preparedness and how we can continue to provide those services to the public, it's definitely a challenge.
Understood.
So,
yeah.
And whether it's the emergency that we may be responding to or assisting other agencies or going in a support role, but it could be things that just affect the health department and our ability to provide service. So we need, vital records, for instance. People need to be able to come in and get their vital records. Mm-hmm. So how do we, in an emergency or some situation, how do we continue to provide those services? So, and that's some of the things you don't think about with emergency planning.
Trying to keep business going when there is an emergency at hand.
Yep.
Understood. So what kind of public health emergencies do we plan for the Porter County Health Department? I know there's a lot of scenarios of things that can happen. There
are a lot of scenarios, and for public health, and what we look at is more along the lines of like a biological threat, chemical, we can say nuclear or radiological, although those are a little lower on the scale. But the way we look at it is the term we kind of use is an all hazards approach. While every emergency might have some nuances to it, the overall response is going to be the same, and we adjust to meet the needs of the incident. You'll notice I didn't say like weather related on there, and that's actually a really big issue that everybody is facing. But in those roles, we're there, but our role is to support other agencies around the county as well. And make sure our core of delivering our services we can still stand that up and deliver it.
That partnership and collaboration effort.
Yep, we work with several different agencies around the county and the state.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about emergency response plans. How does the team build or begin to start on building an emergency response plan? I'm sure it just depends on what kind of emergency is at hand, correct?
Sure. But identifying and building the plan before you have the emergency. So there is a lot of planning that goes into that. And we use various tools to help us assess the needs. And we work with the state to do it, the jurisdictional risk assessment. We just went through one last year, in which we work with state, past history, things that have happened around the country, things that have happened locally, and each one of those items gets weighted to determine the needs, and then we compare those back to our current plans. And if we don't have a plan, we adjust our plan to meet those needs.
Gotcha.
And then there's also some vulnerability assessments on top of that, and those get more specific down to various jurisdictions. And we try to build on those to meet the needs of the entire county. Because the entire county is quite diverse from the north end to the south. There's quite the difference in population densities and such.
Absolutely. Porter County really is a diverse county here in Indiana. This is another kind of broad question, if you will, but what are some of the more common misconceptions that people may have about emergency preparedness, if any?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that emergency preparedness is just for the emergency responders, whether it's the first responders, whether it's other government agencies. But emergency preparedness really goes all the way down the scale, whether it's civic organizations, businesses, and all the way down to the individual. Emergency preparedness would apply. Because an emergency might not necessarily be what you would think is a large-scale event, whether it's a weather event. It could actually be something on a smaller scale. For example, for a business, a power failure could be an emergency for them. Mm-hmm. So how do they prepare to be able to deliver business as well? And that goes all the way down to the individuals in our community. Is what are they going to need, or what do they need to do if they have an emergency? Emergencies come in all different sizes and in shapes and are different for everyone. So
makes sense. Absolutely, good sir. Well, we're not always in an emergency situation. We're not always in an emergency state of mind. So let's talk a little bit about the day in the life of an emergency preparedness coordinator when there's not an emergency going on. What does a day in the life look like for you at the health department?
A day in the life, and you've touched on it, with some of the collaborations and planning. Collaborations is a big one. It's maintaining our lines of communication with our partners. We work closely with our county EMA. We work closely with our other first responders, our fire and EMS agencies across the county. So we have regular meetings, regular trainings, planning events. So that's one of the bigger things we do, is maintain those line of communications. And then it's not always just the emergency responders. We also work with area hospitals, long-term healthcare facilities, other agencies around that would apply where public health could step in and support their operations as well. And then planning. We talked about the risk assessments and how do we develop plans. Well, those plans need to be reviewed. We need to review them on a regular basis, make updates as needed, train on them, evaluate the training, make sure the training was appropriate, make sure there weren't any holes in the plans that we might need to redevelop.
Lots of prep, lots of practice to get all the bugs and kinks out, so that when there is an emergency, when we are in that situation, we're not stumbling over our feet. So
that there is. You don't want to. The first time you look at the plan is not when you don't want to see it when there's an emergency.
Yes.
You know, that's not the first time you want to see it.
It's a good way to put it. We're going to move on to our next segment because you touched on this a little bit with the collaboration. So we collaborate with a lot of different agencies, whether it's federal, state, others in the region, of course here at the local level. So what does that coordination look like in practice during an emergency situation? We touched on this a little bit. It's a lot of support.
Yeah, like I said, it's having the relationships established beforehand, because those are the people you're gonna work with in the incident, and again, you don't want the first time you meet that person to be at an emergency scene. So if you already have that relationship built up, so our meetings that we do tabletop exercises, we do live exercises as well, and those just aren't specific to our county as well. We also work with the 4 other counties around us as well, with their EMAs, their other health departments as well, to maintain those relationships, because we may go in to support them as well. Depends on the size of the incident and the scale. We may be there to support them as well.
That was going to be my next question. We do collaborate with the other counties. We're not just, subject to here at Porter County. We are friendly. We will work with other emergency management agencies around the way just to make sure that those emergency situations are handled.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody has a limited staff, so some incidents can easily overwhelm the available staff. So you may end up supporting other counties, or other counties may come in to support us as well. So we do work regularly with all our surrounding counties.
A big part of the collaboration effort has to be the communication with one another. So can we talk a little bit about how we maintain communication across so many different organizations? I know we do lots of meetings, we do lots of practice drills. Let's just talk a little bit about that, how we become familiar with one another, with that communication across the board.
Communication is key, and you always hear if something goes wrong in an incident, or during an emergency, it comes down to some communication failures. So trying to keep those channels open and the methods of communication relevant is extremely important. With our local partners, more often than not, it's simple method of communication, whether it's a two-way radio, a phone call, a face-to-face if need be, and depends on the incident. It may be a simple email back and forth to share some communications. But as those incidents grow larger and start to expand from really the local level and start to get larger across the county or multiple counties, then partners like the Indiana Department of Health, Homeland Security, several different agencies start to become involved. Those channels we turn to some software options. Outside of the cell phone communication or two-way radio, which we can communicate across the state with. But there are software options. We use a software, a web EOC.
Okay.
That's a state-provided platform. It allows users across the state to be able to come together and share information and be able to collaborate and work together at that level. And that could handle everything from resource requests to incident updates. It really is a nice tool to be able to share our needs and work together across various agencies.
So when it comes to these radios, what if the power is out? What if we're facing that kind of situation? Will these radios still work?
Yep, the radios will still work. They function on the state system.
Okay.
And they literally will go across the repeater system, and we can communicate essentially across the states with the radios.
Okay.
In addition to that, we maintain other radios that are more local. They have some limited distance, but they allow our staff as well to keep in touch if we need to, and we have set up at an incident scene per se.
Okay. No, thanks for clearing that up, because I've always wondered that, what if we were in one of those situations where there is no power? Like, could we do the whole radio walkie-talkie thing?
They'll still work as long as the batteries are good.
Okay.
So back to the daily thing, charging the batteries, making sure, the housekeeping items like that are taken care of are just as important.
Gotcha. So let's move on to our next question. How do we make sure that our other local organizations like hospitals, fire departments, how do we make sure that we're all on the same page during an emergency?
A lot of that comes down to training. Again, the communication part is key to that. Sharing our plans. We do work several training events together. Annually, the hospital does a training event. We're always a participant with the hospital systems, and that's across the five counties as well. We do that with. So that's standard practice for us.
Gotcha. So dealing with so many moving parts, with so many entities, so many local organizations, let's talk a little bit about the challenges that come with coordinating with so many different partners. Mistakes are bound to happen sometimes, right?
Yeah. With so many different partners, it is very difficult. Some of those are other government agencies, little easier to work with in most cases. But some of those partners are private sector as well. So some of the private sectors, and even like the healthcare facilities or long-term healthcare facilities, they might operate a little bit differently than we do. Their staff their training might be different.
Okay.
So trying to work together and get all those moving parts together can be a challenge sometimes. And again, really more than that, most of it comes down to being able to clearly communicate with them. What's their goal? What are they looking for? Versus what our goal might be or where we can help.
Absolutely. So you mentioned, the drills and the practice exercises that take place. Do you get a thrill out of coordinating and taking part of those? What goes through your mind when you're doing that?
Absolutely.
Is it game day for you?
Absolutely. It is like a game. So one of the big things we do, and just because it's easier to get multiple people together, is we tabletop a lot of drills. While they're not necessarily as good as in-person drills where you're actually physically running through an activity, the tabletop lets you verbally walk through it. But you get your players all together to do that. Those are almost like a board game. And some of them, to the point, one I participated in with NIPSCO, they had a table set up and an overhead photo of the area. Matchbox cars were on the table, so you had your Matchbox fire engines and police cars, and you positioned them around the area for a particular incident.
Gotcha.
So one little caveat with it that I remember from that drill, which was really interesting, they invited other healthcare providers in. So when we were talking evacuation areas for that drill, a gentleman had spoke up that was in the group, and he managed a home residence program for mentally challenged.
Okay.
They would have been in the evacuation area. He had additional challenges that now if we need to move these individuals, we need to be able to account for them. We just couldn't let them, open the door and evacuate them. So that brought extra challenges to that incident and things you learn just by bringing all those different players to the table.
And that's a real life situation that could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We have things like that, and they will. Every incident you're gonna probably encounter something you never expected.
Get a little bit of a curveball, if you will. That's good. I mean, it's good to get those practice situations. It's kind of like you said, you work out those kinks, and better to make the mistakes there in practice than in a live situation. Absolutely, good sir. Let's move on to our next segment. Let's talk a little bit about the Strategic National Stockpile, SNS.
Yes.
I had to look this up a little bit. I was a little unfamiliar about this, so hopefully you can explain this a little bit for us and the listeners. So what is the Strategic National Stockpile, and how does it relate to Porter County?
The Strategic National Stockpile, you don't hear a lot about it. What it is, it's supported by Department of Homeland Security, I believe, and then actually managed by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention.
Gotcha.
They actually manage it. From what I understand, there's 12 of them around the country. They're, hence the name, strategically placed, in which we do not know the exact locations.
Okay.
What we're told is, and they're near large population centers. The purpose of them is if medical services are overrun or running out of supplies,
Okay.
they have a stockpile of supplies, whether it's personal protective equipment, and then all the way down to pharmaceuticals or medical countermeasures. Those can be antidotes, antivenoms, the list could go on. Again, it's something we don't have that list of exactly what they have.
Gotcha.
It would be if we encounter something or one of our area healthcare providers or hospitals encounter something and need to access it, they would reach out through the state, Indiana Department of Health. They'll reach out and then determine if some sort of countermeasure or medication is available for what they're seeking.
Understood. Have you ever participated in any SNS related type drills or simulations? Do they offer that?
Not that I'm aware of that they offer it, but we have during some of our tabletop drills took it upon ourselves. We had one particular drill we were doing where the exposure was a blistering agent, so it was actually some sort of a terrorist event that they were drilling. We reached out through the state to see if a medical countermeasure was available. They got back to us and it was. So there would have been a medical countermeasure available. The anticipated delivery time for that, if I remember correctly, was about 4 hours. They could actually have the push pack, what they call them, the push pack delivered and ready for deployment within 4 hours. Okay. Their goal is 12, but they at this point they felt that they could have had that delivered within 4 hours.
Okay. A lot of good information right there. Thanks for clearing that up for me and the listeners, Jeff. Like I said, I kind of stumbled upon that information. I was like, it's a good little topic to talk about.
Fortunately, we don't have to use it often.
Yes, that is a really good thing. Let's move on to our next segment, emergency planning for the public. Let's talk a little bit about why it's important for the public to be aware of local emergency plans.
This one's kind of dear to me on a personal level because I really think as an individual we need to take steps to prepare for an emergency. It could be anything from a weather event, which we've seen. We've seen the extended power outages that we've had in the areas. So we need to be prepared for that because the emergency services might not be readily available. They could be taxed with other emergencies. They could be getting overwhelmed with various things. So I think from an individual point, we need to plan ahead, whether that's maintaining, and I'm not saying you need to turn to the prepper world and go to some of those extremes, but you certainly have water, have enough water around your house for a few days. Whether it's a case of water you keep in the pantry, and some sort of dry type food that you can prepare. Flashlights, weather radios. I think those are all a great thing for every individual to have, and it really is because those first few hours, it could be a while before you get any assistance depending on the incident.
Understood. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that's it's just you have to be prepared in that aspect, and by all means, don't forget your pets. Some people you got to factor in. To a lot of people, their pets are now their children.
Their family, right?
So you have to you factor in the stuff for them as well. Leashes and dog food and methods to provide them water and food as well.
Absolutely. You talked about some of the resources and supplies that you might need, but can we go a little deeper on that? What are some more of the simple things that individuals and even families can do to be better prepared? Maybe each family should have their own emergency preparedness plan?
Yeah, to a point. It doesn't necessarily need to be a written out formal plan that you would, like we work on, but to have a plan with your family. Being able to reach out, to stay in contact, even to have, I guess for lack of a better term, like a safe word or a way that you know that you're communicating with the person you're communicating with. I mean, there's there's fraud. You've heard of cases where people call and say your loved one's in trouble.
Yes.
So
all those scams.
There's a lot of stuff you can do to prepare yourself, but certainly your home and I know the fire departments talk about it. Have your exit plans, your meeting place outside your house. There's really a lot of value in that.
Gotcha. Let's go back to communication because that's a big topic of the day.
Yes.
How can the public stay informed during a public safety type of emergency, a public health emergency?
There are a lot of methods to stay informed. One is obviously local radio stations, news channels, social media. I know at Porter County, we do a really good job of trying to keep current and keep public safety messages on our website, on our Facebook and other social media as well. But one thing that's out there, and I don't know how many people use it across the county, but it's the Smart 911. It's a great service. You can actually go to smart911.com. You sign up. There are so many communities across the state and across the country. You can register where you work, where you live, where you play, and choose the type of messaging you want to receive. But if there's an emergency, it'll alert you that there's emergency going on. Simply today, with the high heat that we're experiencing, the heat advisories came out, and I got those as a text message that came out through Porter County. So the National Weather Service pushes messages through there. But also, I know Porter County also pushes out like road closures, various things like that may be happening. But that's a great option. They're on the back side of that website as well, the Smart 911. You can enter some information about you, medications, history, who's in your household, and that information can become available to the emergency responders, coming into your house or where you're at, so they can get a little heads up, a little more information about you before they arrive.
Absolutely. Lots of good stuff right there. This is the last question of this segment. Talk a little bit about the public. What role does community feedback play when it comes to shaping emergency response plans?
I think the community has a lot to offer in the planning stages and even after an event. But there's a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of local knowledge of what's available. They know their area. They might have been community members for many years, and just have a lot to offer about what is in that area. They know their neighbors, so they are a wealth of information. So it's great to hear from them, get input, even after an incident. You want to hear the good. But you also want to hear the bad, or if we fail to meet the bar where they've expected us to go, because maybe it's something we can change and we can improve for the future. So the public is definitely in a very important role in maintaining and building these plans.
Definitely, absolutely, good sir. We've talked a lot about a lot of serious topics today about ways to keep your family safe, emergency preparedness plans, what we do for the community. We're going to wrap the show here in a little bit, but for this last segment, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to take it off of this serious topic of emergency preparedness, and I just want to ask you a few questions just to get your reaction, Jeff, just to see what you think, just to see what kind of person you are. So my first question, these are the things that kind of keep me up at night, good sir. So who wins in a fight, a lion or a tiger?
Well, I don't think there's a whole lot of thought there. It's the lion. I mean,
Really?
they're the king. They're the king of the jungle, right? They're the king. So while I think the tiger could probably give them a run for their money, I think the lion's got it in the end.
I think the mane would protect the lion. I think so.
Yeah.
It's hard to get to that jugular, hard to get to the back of the neck, so to speak. So I agree with you.
They didn't earn the title King of the Jungle for nothing.
I think Mufasa beats Shere Khan. I think you're right. Let's move on to my next question, good sir. We'll go back to emergency preparedness for a little bit. What is your go-to snack during an emergency preparedness drill? Something that gives you energy, something that's going to keep you going, to keep the hawks off you.
Well, you have the little bit of candy, you have the sweet, and then you have the peanuts. It's peanuts M&Ms for me.
All right.
I don't think you can go wrong.
Okay, I can see that. I like a nice little bag of peanuts, if you will. I like the almond bars with a little chocolate strip on there. Those little protein bars. Those are good. Especially when you're working those long days with those practice drills and whatnot. You got to have something to keep you going, have some fuel.
Yep, you do.
Well, sticking with the emergency preparedness, let's get a little more silly with this. So, imagination land for a minute. Like I opened the show, if we were to ever come across one of these fictitious apocalyptic type situations, if you could prepare for one outrageous emergency, like zombie apocalypse, an alien invasion, monsters, anything, what would you choose and why? You're choosing something that you can survive through and thrive. Which would that be?
I think I would much rather deal with a zombie apocalypse.
Really?
Yeah. I think, according to all the research I've done on these fictitious shows, the zombies are pretty predictable. They're out to do one thing, and I think we can address that pretty easily, or hopefully. Aliens, if they're here, and they've probably been watching us for a while, so I think they would have a pretty good handle of what to expect. And if they're here, they've got technology that we're not ready to deal with yet.
They've been behind the scenes all this time. They know our weaknesses.
Yeah. I've seen the Transformers, and I would say if Optimus Prime wasn't on our side, we would have had a pretty rough go.
That's true. Those are some aliens that I do like.
Yeah.
I totally get your thinking on that. I totally get your strategy. I feel like the zombie apocalypse would probably be more scary. Scarier, I would say. Yeah. Because, all the alien movies we've seen, Mars Attacks, Independence Day, usually, they kind of make it quick. That's kind of their goal, because they just want to take over the planet. But the zombies, the whole being eaten alive and all the sound effects that they make, that's I don't know. That's a different war to fight, Jeff. That is a different kind of battle, my man.
Yeah, it is true. It is true.
I think I would have to. I think I would side with you. I think we would be okay in the zombie apocalypse. Everyone would just have to do like in the shows. We'd all get in our little groups, our little tribes, and Jeff would definitely be on my team. He's on my team, guys. So, Jeff, what is one survival item that you would take with you if you were on a desert island?
Well,
a deserted island.
If we're going along the little funner side of it, if coffee counts as a survival item, that certainly would be at the top of my list. That coffee happens to be one of my vices, and I think I would have to have a cup of coffee.
I didn't see that in Castaway.
No.
I didn't see any coffee in that movie.
Yeah, but the other choice would have been a volleyball. Yeah.
Okay. Need some companionship.
Right.
Good, sir. I've got one last question, and then we're going to let you go. What is your favorite thing about working at the Porter County Health Department? Or favorite things?
The people. I mean, maybe it sounds cliche, and that would be an answer you would expect, but really the people at the health department. From my first day when they welcomed me into the door, till now, it's everybody really is a tight family. Even with all the different things that we do, we can still all come together and all support each other. Even if that's not your primary role, we're all willing to back each other up and help them out. It definitely is a great group of people. So,
great teamwork. We really do have a great atmosphere at the Porter County Health Department. Jeff, I want to thank you for your time, sir, but I do want to ask you, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Did I leave anything out? Is there something that you think is important that should have been talked about when it comes to emergency preparedness that I left out of today's topic, out of today's conversation?
No, I think we covered everything pretty well. I think just as I said before, it's kind of dear to me that I think everybody needs to take steps to prepare themselves as well for an emergency. I mean, ultimately, there's going to be people coming to help, but it might take a little while for them to get there. And being a little self-sufficient from the start, if it buys you a little extra time or a little extra comfort, you'll be ahead of the game. So,
when it comes to having a plan, it's best to have something before an emergency comes, as opposed to, what I'm trying to say is it's better to have a plan before an emergency comes than when it actually comes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we continue to see some of these severe weather incidents.
Yes.
And I think it's just wise have a plan with yourself and your family.
Absolutely. Got to keep everybody safe. Jeff, thank you so much for your time today, good sir. We appreciate you sharing your insight on the important work that you do at the Porter County Health Department and ultimately what you do for the community. Thanks for your time today, good sir.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you've learned something from today's conversation. Remember, a healthy community starts with each and every one of us. Let me give you an update on an event that we're hosting. Get ready, Porter County, because the Porter County Health Department invites you to our first ever Health and Safety Fair on Saturday, August 9th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Portage High School Fieldhouse. This free family-friendly event will feature more than 25 community vendors, exciting giveaways, we have food trucks, and fun activities for all ages. Come explore free health services, hands-on safety demonstrations, and connect with local organizations dedicated to keeping you and your family safe and healthy. All ages are welcome, and this is a free event. Mark your calendars and join us for a day of health, safety, and community connection. To learn more about this, follow the Porter County Health Department on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X. We'll see you there. And for more information on these events and programs and initiatives that we discussed today and much more, please visit us on our website. You can find us on the Porter County government website at www.portercountin.gov, or you can go straight to the health department website, www.in.gov/local health/Porter County. And as I just said, you can find us on social media. Our Twitter or X, you can find us at x.com/county_Porter. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Porter County Health DEPT, or you can find us on Instagram at Porter_County HD. This is Demetrius Lewis, Communications Manager with the Porter County Health Department, signing off. Thank you for tuning in to yet another edition of the PoCo Wellness Hour, right here on WVLP 103.1 FM, your show for health, community connection, and overall well-being. Have a safe and healthy week, Porter County. Peace.